Okay, so this week we're all talking about the episode as a whole. I think there are a lot of strong opinions on this one. It wasn't all bad. I know immediately it got mostly negative reaction, except from Hayley who loved it. But, there were some definite positives as well. So just to run through everything, Varys, the beginning, was writing little scrolls to tell people about John and kind of spread the word. And Tyrion decided that he was still ready to give Dany the benefit of the doubt and that she was still the true queen. And so he sold Varys out. I will say what's honorable about Tyrion, though, is that he told Varys, it was me, I did it. Varys, forgave him and said he hoped he was wrong. And then, Dany had Drogon execute him. But it was fitting in for Varys, somebody who has switched sides the entire time, even if his intentions were for the people of the realm and were in the right place. The next thing was Tyrion went to talk to Dany, and he told her about ring the bells if there's a truce, because he didn't want the city to burn, basically. And then John goes to talk to Dany, and she's like, nobody loves me, everybody's scared of me. It goes back to that, is it better to be feared or to be loved? Question that, you get in a lot of fantasy stories. And John is like, I love you, you'll always be my queen. And so she tries to come on to him again, and like the second time he pulls away from her, and so she's like, well, I guess it's fear then. But, John, I think he's just real freaked out that they're related. Like, it's a big thing for him to find that out. It's normal for Targaryens, but he hasn't been raised as a Targaryen. So for him, it's, strange. So then Daenerys tells Tyrion that Jaime's here and that he was trying to get past the front lines to get to Cersei, and so they've captured him. So Tyrion goes to talk to Jaime and tells Jaime to try to ring the bells and to take Cersei under the castle and out to the shore to a boat and to sail off and go, I forgot where he said to go, to Essos or somewhere to start a new life and forget about all of this. And Jaime promises him that he will. And they have a really touching moment where Tyrion thanks Jaime for being who he's been and says that he's the only one who didn't treat him like a monster, that he never would have survived without him. And then they hug and Tyrion's crying. And at this moment, you kind of get the sense that this really is the last time they're going to see each other, either because one or both of them will die, or because Jaime will escape with Cersei and, start a new life, and they'll never see each other. So then we have Dany preparing to go after the Iron Fleet and the troops outside the castle waiting for Dany. And you have Arya and the Hound go to enter King's Landing while people are, going in, so that, they're protected by the walls. And Arya and the Hound, they ask Arya what she's doing here, and she's like, I'm here to kill the queen. Like, duh. And they're just like, okay, cool, come on in. So she and the Hound get through, and then a bunch of the citizens of the town get locked out. And everybody's just like terrified. And so then Dany comes in, storms in, and like storms the Iron Fleet, like burns them up, and they fire, I think, one or two of the scorpions off, and she burns all of the scorpion big crossbow cannon things. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, so she burns them up, and then she goes and she like burns part of the walls in the King's Landing so that the troops can get through. So then you got Jon and Grey Worm leading the troops in, and they just go through and like take over everything. And you got like Dany like perched up watching, and then you have they get to the Lannister army that are next to the Red Keep, and the Lannisters are like, we're gonna lose. Like, they already ran over the Golden Company. They took out, the hot Golden Company general or whatever. And so they've already blown through them. Got this dragon that's destroyed their whole navy. Like, it's got the dragon watching down on them and flying around, intimidating everybody. And got Cersei just like staring out the window, and she's just like, the people will fight for me. I am their queen and they love me. And she knows they all hate her, so I don't even know why she thought that. Anyway, so the Lannister army's like, fuck this, we surrender, we're done, okay? And then it's like, everybody's like screaming, ring the bells, ring the bells, ring the bells. Cersei never gives the order to ring the bells. Ring the bells, ring the bells. But eventually the bells ring, and so, Jon looks like relieved, and Tyrion looks relieved, and Grey Worm looks like, I wanted to kill some more people, and Daenerys is on her dragon like, I hate everyone, no one loves me, so now I have to burn everyone up. So she, we know what she does. She decides to go after everyone, and she burns all the civilians and just burns the city down. And this is the part that I was most upset about, because they had to make her crazy. Like, it's just like 2016 all over again. Let's make the woman crazy. Strong woman, crazy. Okay, so they decide to go the mad route with Daenerys, which I personally was really not happy with, because I felt like there was a little bit of her starting to go that way, but they didn't build it enough. They didn't give enough time. That's the problem with the whole season, is it's rushed. The character development from her like being normal to going absolutely crazy was not built enough to be believable. It's just like, oh, woman can't be in power, she's crazy, so let's have her go crazy. And she did. So we got this whole series building up strong women, take down Cersei, who's super strong. Brienne gets her heart broken, which like seems impossible. We got Arya, who like abandons her kill list, which I think was the right thing, but that aside, still, we've got Sansa telling people secrets, being a little gossipy, and like we got Dany going crazy. So all these cliche female things that happen, and you're just like, what happened in the show? Like, take all these women who are super strong, like really amazing, like strong female characters, and then you put all these other like cliches that people have and throw them into the last season. Like, okay, anyway, so she starts burning everything. Tyrion and Jon are like, what the fuck? And Grey Worm's like, yeah, that's right, and throws his spear at the head of the Lannister army, and then everybody rushes and starts fighting. People are getting killed. Civilians are running around like crazy, scared for their lives. You got Jaime and Euron like by the beach wanting to kill each other because they're both in love with Cersei. They both think that she's carrying their child. And Euron's like, I'm the king. And Jaime's like, yeah, I want to bet. And so they go at each other. And like Euron does fatally wound Jaime, but he's able to, go to Cersei before he dies, and then Jaime kills Euron, and Euron's like, well, I'm still the man that killed Jaime Lannister. You're like, okay, whatever. Anyway, just glad Euron's dead. Then it shows like Cersei in the Red Keep, like watching everything, and Qyburne's like, bitch, it's not safe, we got to go. She's like, the Red Keep is the safest place. And he's like, no, not anymore, let's go. So they start to leave, and then you've got the Hound and Arya, and they make it finally to the Red Keep, and you think they're both going to go after the people they're there for, and the Hound turns to Arya and is like, you don't want to be like me. You can't do this. Like, you need to leave. You're going to die if you stay here. Like, if you learn anything from me, learn to let go of the hate, let things happen naturally, and go. Like, my vendetta is not going to be finished until I take care of it, but I'm old and I'm stubborn and I have to go after my brother, but you are young and you need to go, basically is what he says without saying all those words. So Arya's like, you know what? Right, but you're gonna die anyway, so I might as well save myself. She's young, you can see in her eyes, she's scared, she doesn't want to die. You could tell in the, episode 3 that she did not want to die. Arya's not ready to die. She wants to kill, but she's not ready to die yet. So she's like, you know what? Yeah. So she starts to leave, and then she turns around and she calls him Sandor, and it's so sweet. You just want to cry. And she's like, Sandor, thank you. I think at that moment, we kind of all know that the Hound and the Mountain are going to kill each other. Like, with that type of goodbye, you kind of know. So anyway, she leaves, and then we have the Hound approaching Gregor, Qyburn, and Cersei. And Cersei's like, so Gregor, stay by my side. And he's like, nah. And then Qyburn's like, Sir Gregor, obey your queen. And Gregor's like, and just like throws Qyburn to the side and kills him like he's like nothing, like a little rag doll or something. He's just like, okay, you're dead. So then he starts to go towards the Hound, and Cersei like runs by both of them down the stairs, like, I don't want to be in this. And so then they start fighting, and then it shows Cersei like standing by herself at the bottom of the stairs in that big room, and Jaime finally makes it to her, and she's crying. She's happy to see him, and she's also terrified, but she's relieved. And so then they hug, and then the Hound and the Mountain continue fighting, and the Mountain starts to like gouge his eyes out like the Martell guy. And you're like, man, fucking die the same way, no. And then like the Hound's like, no, I got a knife, I'm gonna put it through your head. But like the Mountain is like zombie Darth Vader or something, and so you have him, he's still like moving toward the Hound with this knife through his head. So the Hound just charges them, and they go off and they fall into the flames, and it's just like, of course the Hound is going to die by fire. Like, what else were they going to do? So anyway, they kill each other, which I kind of thought was going to happen all along. So then it's just Jon, he's like yelling, everybody retreat, get out of the city, we gotta leave the city, Dany's crazy, she's gonna burn it to the ground, we gotta go. And Arya's like trying to help the women and children. And then we've got Jaime takes Cersei to that place Tyrion told him to like go out from under the castle to get to the beach, but now it's blocked, which you kind of wonder, did Tyrion know it was blocked? And like, this is the way that, Cersei's supposed to die, is, sorry, you're not going to live either way. Or was it blocked because someone else knew about it? Like, what was the deal with that? Maybe Tyrion did tell Daenerys about the plan to save himself, and because at this point we've seen that Jaime's like irredeemable. He loves Cersei, he's not going to stop loving Cersei. Like, he's been through everything and he still goes back to Cersei. So anyway, we have that, and it shows her cry, like she's crying, she doesn't want to die, she doesn't want their baby to die, and he just holds her, and it's like nothing else matters, only us, and the castle collapses, and like, I don't know, that moment for me was just, I felt bad for them. Like, Lena Lena Headey. She's such an amazing actress. Like, you can hate her so much, but at the same time, you feel like really sorry for her and you understand her. And you've got Jamie and you understand him because, like, we've all had that one relationship where we did horrible things for. Maybe we haven't, but some of us have. And, like, it's just like, that it's toxic and terrible, but you also know that they're toxic, terrible people, but they really do have things they care about. They love each other and their children. And so, it's one of those like love it and hate it type things. So anyway, after that, it shows Arya. She apparently had like passed out because of the ash. She wakes up, she's like coughing, like covered in ash and blood, whatever. So she's just like, ash is raining down on her, and she like looks around, whatever, and then eventually like this white horse comes. She's like, where's this horse come from? I mean, I've heard some theories that the horse was Bran, but anyway, not really sure if it is or not, but I think that's kind of a interesting theory. So anyway, that's what happened in the episode, and then I think we're going to talk about our final predictions for next week, but that's what happened this week.
Okay, so one more thing about this episode that I think really deserves some love is the music and the cinematography and the set builds and the movie magic in general. The CGI and everything about this episode was just absolutely incredible. Like, it was blowing my mind, everything they did for this episode. I just can't imagine how long it took them to work on this episode and that one sequence alone. It's just absolutely incredible, the things that they do for this show. And, the action that they are able to create. And I gotta say, I think this is the most graphic and most violent episode of Game of Thrones that we've seen, even more so than Battle of the Bastards, and I was living for it every fucking second, even though it was hard to watch. Like, that's just me, okay? That's just me.
Okay, well, I didn't hate it as much as the week before, so there's that at least. Feels like at the beginning Varys is like trying to poison her, which I feel like seems sort of obvious for him. And then for Tyrion to like tattle on him, even though he must have known that she was gonna like burn him. And I feel like that's super out of character for him too, because he like tries his hardest not to like get people killed. But whatever. And then I like got pissed off and stopped it for like a day, and then came back to it because Varys was like my favorite character. So yeah. Anyways, then, oh man. First of all, or not first of all, whatever. Anyway, then Jon's back at the castle somehow, even though like earlier in the last episode he was like headed to King's Landing. Like, how long does it take to get between the two that he just like was back all of a sudden? And then this is the part that made me mad. Okay, well, we all know like Dany goes crazy or whatever, right? And a lot of people are like, no, that makes sense. And a lot of people are like, this is bullshit, whatever. I don't really care either way. Like, obviously they needed more time to build up to that, and if they had like done that deal, it would have been better. The main thing I'm mad about is that she's like trying to make out with her nephew, and then he says no, and then she's like, fine then, it's fear. Like, the whole reason that she decided to do anything she did was because she wasn't like getting laid, like, is so insulting to everything that the show's about. And so that's how I feel about basically the whole show. A few other things. I thought that the Clegane Bowl was pretty cool, except for the fact that why were they just like the scene, was anyone else like cracking up when they're like about to fight and then he just like smashes Qyburn into a wall, and then Cersei's like, excuse me, just gonna sneak by y'all. Like, why would they write that like that? Why were they like, hey, so how are we gonna write that like Cersei gets past this fight? Like, oh, just have her sneak by. It'll be fine. It won't look weird as shit. Like, it'll be totally fine. That makes no sense. Ugh. It was really hilarious though. I was dying. Let's see, what else was annoying? The whole Arya thing was like trying so hard to be like, you know, emotional, and I was just like, I don't know those people that she's trying to save, and then she like screwed up royally. Like, she should have just let them stay in the building and get smushed. Like, and then she just like keeps coming back like Terminator 2 and like and gets on a horse or something. Like, what? Oh, and I forgot the part where she just like gives up on her revenge plan for the last 7 years because the Hound is just like, you don't want to be like me, and she's like, oh, you know what, you're right, I'm just gonna turn around. And she's like, then they say the cheesiest dialogue ever, and she's like, Sandor, thank you. What? Are you kidding me? She just like decided she doesn't need to get revenge on anybody all of a sudden, and she just like says thank you to his ass for it. So poorly written. And I mean, the scene with the horse was pretty. There was that with the fake snow or whatever, I don't know. And yeah. And then did anybody else watch the director's thing? Like, you have some explaining to do for sure. And then they're like, well, we really wanted to, you know, have the emotions on the ground, because normally in this kind of movies you just see the damage. Have you seen Independence Day? That's literally the same shots every time. Every time somebody just got by the Independence Day alien beam was the same as the dragon. That's not creative. How is that? I mean, I'm not a director, whatever, like, good for them, but I've already been through this with Lost, and I don't like want to go through it again. And I don't want Jon to be on the throne when he never actually did anything. He got saved by Sansa at the Battle of the Bastards, Arya in the Battle of the Winterfell, Melisandre when he got killed by his friends. Who else? Oh, Dany, like, all the time. Like, I mean, he's probably not going to be king. It's going to be some, like, I don't actually know what's going to happen. But I definitely think it's going to be super basic and lame if it's him. Because, like, this whole dude, white savior thing is obnoxious. I think those are pretty much all of my... Oh, and Cersei and Jaime just, like, died in a pile of rubble. Okay. So then that... Because, okay, last week, when I was pissed about the whole thing with Brienne, I was like, well, maybe he's going to go and he's going to murder Cersei, and then that's going to be okay. Right? And, like, the only thing it did was make me, like, kind of feel bad for Cersei. But then they died, and I was totally like, okay. Like, I should have been sad. Jaime spent this whole time getting better, like, as a character, like, nicer. And then she was like, I'm gonna kill your ass. And he was like, all right, bye. And then he just is like, oh, never mind. I'm fine. Why? And then, I mean, everyone's like, oh, Cersei should have gotten murdered in a better way. But some people are saying, like, maybe they'd find a way out. Which, considering how ridiculous the rest of the season has been, there's a chance, guys. They can just, like, illogically get them out from under the rubble. Just like friggin' Euron survived the friggin' boat and then killed Jaime and then had the stupidest final scene ever where they're like focusing on him and he's like, I killed Jamie. Like, no, I hate that guy. Why did he get his own like visual death instead of Jamie? Like, if you haven't watched Lost, it's hard. It's hard to go through this again and think a show is going to be perfect. But, you know, it can't all be the Bob Newhart show and have perfect endings. So, good luck, guys.
So, I guess Amelia Clark was right. In previous interviews before the episode, she said that you should just watch the episode on the biggest screen you could find because there was going to be a lot going on, and that's absolutely true. I mean, at the beginning, we see the strategy meeting again. Like, how are we gonna approach this entrance to King's Landing and the Red Keep to kill the Queen? And then they decide that they're gonna wait for daybreak, and there's like a little tension between Jon Snow and Tyrion because Jon Snow wants to obey his queen, but he knows that it's not probably the best idea to jump in and go right ahead and attack right at that moment. So they decide that they're going to attack at daybreak, and I think that's best because that way the dragon can like fly against the sun and be like a little bit difficult to catch in flight. And then I think we see that that they capture Jamie, and that's when there's a really sweet moment in the episode when Tyrion goes and rescues Jamie. I mean, he already knows that he's gonna die for everything that he's done before. I mean, Varys died earlier in the episode for trying to spread the word that Jon is the true heir of the throne. We saw Dany burning him alive, and I think that's the coolest and calmest Dracarys that she's ever spoken in the entire series. She was like, Dracarys, like, I don't care, just die, you traitor, blah. And so when Tyrion sees that they killed Varys over this, he knows that if he frees Jamie, he's gonna die as well, but he doesn't care because it's the right thing to do. I mean, Dany's going completely insane. And he frees Jamie, and they have this really sweet moment together because they have always been there for each other. I mean, Jamie freed Tyrion when he was sentenced to death after Oberyn Martell lost to the Mountain on the trial by combat back 2 seasons ago, I believe. And they've always had each other's back, even though they kind of mess up with each other with the whole little people jokes and knowing that Jamie and Cersei are lovers. Like, he understands that if they die, they have to die together. So he frees him so that he can go find Cersei. And I think he just waits for mercy. Next, we see that the Hound and Arya are also approaching King's Landing, and she pulls out her Stark card, like, I'm Arya Stark, I'm here to kill the Queen, just step aside, bitch. Like, I don't have time for you, I have to go and get in the castle before they close the doors. So they rush in with everybody else, and the people in King's Landing, they're just like rushing to get inside the Red Keep and rushing to get to safety because something really bad's going to happen. And I think Lena Headey, I mean, her facial expressions, watching everybody just running around and trying to get through the doors, is just fantastic. She's like, yeah, I am your queen, I'm going to save you. She's has like a little smug look in her face. Just fantastic. She really brought her game face on. Just a fantastic actress. Then we get to the actual action part of the episode. We see Euron standing with the Iron Fleet, They're just waiting for Drogon, and this is the part that some people found unbelievable because, I mean, they shot Rhaegal quite easily in the last episode, just like 4 arrows and one missed, and then Rhaegal was down. I mean, she does take the sunlight to her advantage because she flies directly from the sun, so they kind of have a hard time aiming. But when the dragon approaches, the dragon is pretty big, so I'm not really sure how they missed. They had like what, 25 boats, and they couldn't hit one. So that's, to me, that was just unnecessary action. Yeah, she burned the Iron Fleet, but trying to hit that gigantic dragon from one of the boats, I thought that was going to be pretty easy, and maybe one arrow was going to strike. Then we see Euron jump in the water, and the rest of the Iron Fleet is completely burned. And then Dany just keeps going with her fire, and she busts open the entrance to King's Landing, burying and burning the Golden Company. Like, they didn't do anything. They're supposed to be like the best army in the Seven Kingdoms, and they just stood there like dolls, just waiting to be killed. I didn't understand that at all. And then the Unsullied and the Dothraki and the Army of the North, they just rush in through that space that Dany left open for them. And they rush in and they face the Lannister army. And that was just so funny. Like, the Lannister army, they look at them like these people have a ton of weapons, and they have the wild Dothraki, and they have the dragon. Like, we're gonna surrender. So they just drop their weapons and just like, you know what? Let's not even go there. I'd rather live. And they start screaming for them to ring the bells and ring the bells and ring the bells. And you can see Cersei kind of hearing all the desperate screams from the people of King's Landing. Just ring the bells, ring the bells, ring the bells in sign of surrender. And her face is just like, oh crap, yeah, I have to surrender because they're gonna kill my people, and I'm gonna be the one to blame. And when they focus the camera on Dany, and she is just surrounded by all these screams of ring the bells and the sounds of Drogon, because I mean the dragon sounds are kind of loud. I think the mix of all that and then the ringing of the bells, that's what kind of makes her snap and become completely mad. Maybe that, and maybe that she saw the Red Keep and the tower and the Iron Throne room, because that's exactly what the Lannisters took from her. And I think maybe that was the biggest turning point for her, and she just decided that she had to kill everybody. So she goes on this gigantic rampage, like burning everything in sight. Oh my gosh, that was so much fire. And then I think they focused the camera on John, because I mean the plan was that if they surrendered and they rang the bells, Dany was not going to strike with Drogon, but she did, and he goes like, no. And then his army just goes completely berserk and starts butchering the Lannister army. He's like, no, fall back, don't attack, stand down. And nobody is listening to him. And I mean, not even Grey Worm. Grey Worm goes completely insane because he still has feelings for Missandei. They killed her. So I think that he has kind of like a revenge for himself for Missandei, because they killed her, and that was the love of his life. And I think that's why he snapped. And the rest of the army, like, we've come all this way here, so we're gonna just kill these people. I don't care. And our queen is massacring everybody else, and she's burning everything. So we're just gonna go and help her on her quest to kill Cersei and to kill everybody else. So this is our queen, and if she's following through with her initial plan, just let's go and burn her. And in the midst of it all, and we saw at the beginning that Jaime got left out of the castle. He didn't manage to get in, but he remembered Tyrion's plan on how to escape with Cersei, and he goes back around the castle to the entrance with the dinghy. Uh, and I think, yeah, and that's when he runs into Euron, and this is where the novella kind of part begins, because I don't think that was necessary at all. And if it was necessary for them to fight over Cersei, at least they could have brought up the fact that Jaime was fighting to save her because she was pregnant with his child, and then Euron would be like, but that's my child as well. It was a very petty battle. I didn't like it at all. He should have beheaded Euron at one point, but whatever. Also, Jaime was completely stabbed with a sword, and he could walk and talk as nothing would have happened. Nothing had happened. I mean, that was not realistic at all. I don't know. Um, that was not for me. I was not up for that. I was up for Euron dying, but not in that way. He had to die, but not that way. He would have been beheaded and made him completely suffer. And also he didn't kill the Kingslayer. He dies later in the episode, but not from the one the one he inflicted. And then we see that Arya and the Hound part ways. Because the Hound says to her that she was going to die if she stayed with him, because everything was crumbling, because Daenerys is just burning everything and making everything crumble. Like, I don't know if it's the explosive force of Drogon's fire, or the vibration from his wings moving and flying, that is making everything crumble and just fall apart. So Arya was gonna die anyway, and the Hound still had his vendetta with his brother, with Gregor the Mountain. So he tells Arya to leave, and she does, and then he just runs up to the mountain. And when Qyburn finally convinces Cersei to get out of the castle or somewhere safer than that tower, they run into the mountain, and I think this was my favorite part, between Qyburn dying that way and then the Clegane Bowl. It was just fantastic. The mountain just shoves him away and his head explodes against a rock. Just take that. I hated Qyburn, so I was very happy to see him die in such a horrible way. Then Cersei escapes, and then Clegane Bowl begins. And we see that the mountain doesn't die from any of the wounds inflicted by the Hound, and the Hound kind of gets his shit together and pulls up his big boy pants and understands that the only way that the mountain can die is through fire, even though he's completely scared of fire because the mountain held him against fire when they were children. That's how he got the huge scar on his face. That's I think that it doesn't matter at that point, because he needs to kill his brother, and he just pushes him out of the way, and they both fall into this pit of fire that King's Landing is right now. And then we see that Jaime reunites with Cersei after surviving that battle with Euron. And I mean, this is the other part of the novella that I was talking about. Yeah, they were supposed to die together because they've been saying so the entire series. I'm gonna die with him. We're gonna die together. And yeah, but I mean, the way that they died, it was just too romantic and too cliche, and they didn't deserve it. I mean, yeah, maybe Jaime deserved it, but Cersei was such a horrible character. She inflicted so much pain and she caused so much misery. She should have died in a very, very, very bad way. But alas, she died with her brother. And after all the massacre that Dany inflicted, that everything falls, and we see that Arya survives, and that Jon survives, and that his army didn't kind of pay attention to him, he understands that the city is falling, that he has to get his people out of there. So he starts yelling for people to fall back. And we see that some of the characters survive. I mean, Arya survived, and Jon Snow and Grey Worm, and we see that Dany just is feeding off this massacre that she's caused, and that's, I believe that's how the episode ended, because it was just a lot of fire and running and buildings crumbling. So there's not much to talk about the rest of the scenes. It's just very descriptive of how people died and how they try to kill each other because they were fighting to stay alive. And then we see, oh yeah, the last part of the episode, and then we see that this white horse kind of shows up next to Arya when she wakes up in the middle of all this ash. And I think that was Bran trying to find his family, warging into the horse. And the white horse kind of reminds me of hope and life. And it also reminds me to, it makes me remember the white horse that Dany was given by Khal Drogo when they got married. So maybe it's a sign of a new life. And then she gets on the horse and just storms off. But I don't think she is gonna get at a King's Landing. I think she understands that now she has other green eyes to shut. And that's the episode.
I loved this episode, but I'm not gonna lie, I was a little hot when Daenerys killed Varys like this. The plus side was Drogon looked badass in this scene, coming out of the dark like that. I was a little bit pissed off by everyone's complacency with her horribleness, right? Like, what is she trying to do? Because Sansa knows, like, is she trying to tell Jon she's gonna kill her? Like, what? I was a little bit confused because it's like, he wasn't the only person that knew. So anyway, then the next scene that struck me was Jaime and Tyrion. That was, they gave us that, like, damn. That was so sweet, and just everything. Like, I was just making noises that whole scene. It was, I knew it whenever Tyrion went to go negotiate with Cersei in the last episode. I was like, blood's thicker than water, y'all. And so yeah, and he risked his life, and yeah, so let's just hope Daenerys never finds out about that. And then so that's the Golden Company. We were all laughing like, okay, that guy, whatever. Anyway, enter Daenerys on top of the Iron Fleet. Like, did anyone else think, why didn't she do this before? Like, why didn't it turn out like this the last time she was, like, with the Golden Company on her dragons? I was just real confused. I mean, it was badass, and I don't know why Euron was, like, so terrified looking, other than she was, like, coming from behind them. I guess that had to be it. And he didn't, and he knew it was, like, an ambush. Whatever. So the battle scene was really cool. Shutting the shutters, that was, like, getting you ready for it. That was, like, anxiety inducing. So then they ring the bells like Tyrion had been begging for, because he's the only person. I feel so bad for Tyrion this whole episode. All he's doing is begging, and he just has this, like, sad look on his face the whole time. And finally rings the bells, and everyone is just kind of like, okay, it's over. Jon's like, we won, I don't have to. And he looks just so upset the whole time too. Like, you can tell he hates fighting and everything. And then Danny does what she does. And then Grey Worm, like, okay, so the thing about that is he's dealing with some shit too, right? So I guess he took it as a free-for-all, like what they said in after the episode or whatever. I didn't really think of that until they said that. And then John's like, here we go again. So I mean, I don't think it made women look bad. I don't understand why people don't like this. She has been saying she's going to take what she wants with Fire and Blood for however many years, and she did it, and she said she wants people to fear her, and she's been slowly unraveling for how long? I mean, any other possibility in the show, the way they've written her, would seem like a fan fiction, I think. So I'm not mad at it. I think don't like try to live in this perfect world where, no, it's cool, it's badass. I mean, it's horrible, but it's fake. So, I mean, I loved it. Who doesn't want to like burn some shit when you're going through things? She's experiencing like betrayal and loss and heartbreak all at once, and I mean, that's a lot, and she's alone, or she feels alone, so that's very human, and she's not better than that. I mean, the thing that's cool and that has, the thing that has made Game of Thrones so cool is that none of the characters are like all good or all bad. So how can anyone be mad at somebody, you know, raging? I don't know. I mean, I lived for it. It was badass. I mean, although really sad. But I do, yeah, I hope she dies for it for sure. But I mean, it was a cool episode and cool scenes and everything, and just to see Cersei's face when she didn't have any backup plans, and when she realized that like one dragon is pretty bad, right? Then the Jaime and Euron scene, I mean, that was like funny and entertaining and everything, but I was pretty sad when Jaime got stabbed. And I'm the man who killed Jaime Lannister. That was funny. The Hound and Arya, very touching, right? I mean, oh, and what struck me was how Arya's face changes, I think, when he says, do you want to be...
Okay, so predictions. Like, all of my predictions so far, except for like the Hound and the Mountain killing each other, have been wrong. So I really have no idea what's gonna happen. I mean, at this point, there is no King's Landing, there is no throne, everything's burned to the ground. Kind of really leaning towards they split up the Seven Kingdoms, and Tyrion either goes back to Casterly Rock and that's his land, or he goes to Winterfell to marry Sansa. And I think that Bronn, they have to give him Highgarden, and then you've got Sansa in Winterfell, who Jon will let the Starks keep Winterfell. Hopefully Jon just goes back with Wildlings, because that's where he's happy. You know, then the rest, I don't know, maybe, I think Grey Worm's probably going to sail off to go to Noth, because was Missandei's last thing. That's what she wanted to do when it was all over. So I think he'll go there for her. Dany, I don't know. My hope is that she's smart enough to fly this dragon back to Meereen, where Dario, who loves her, is still, and she just goes and rules in Essos, where she should have stayed all along, because she was great there. People love her there, and we all saw she needs to be loved. But I mean, I have a feeling John or Arya is gonna kill her. Arya because she was caught in all that shit because of Danny, and John because he realizes she's batshit crazy. So anyway, if the kingdoms don't separate, then I think they'll probably put John on the throne, even though he doesn't want it. Um, so yeah, if they do that, though, I think he'll give the North their freedom and let Sansa be queen in the North. So yeah, if John becomes king, I think he'll probably make Davos the Hand and maybe Arya Kingsguard, and Sam will obviously be the Maester. Um, and then he'll let Sansa have the North with Brienne and Bran, who's the three-eyed raven, or possibly the Lord of Light. Don't really know. Hopefully she marries Tyrion. I like that match. I don't know why. I guess because when they were first married, it was like forced, but they've come around to have a mutual respect for each other. So that'd be a nice happy ending. But I guess we'll see how it happens. Wonder if Arya will change her mind and marry Gendry. Hope not, but we'll see. Anyway, so those are my few possible predictions.
From the trailer, we see that Danny is covered in ash and everything is just completely wiped out by ash. She sees her army and she's standing somewhere. I don't think that's the throne room though. And we see that she has green eyes, and maybe those are the green eyes that Arya was supposed to shut and not Cersei's. So I think that Arya is gonna kill her. I mean, Jon Snow is gonna try to kill her first, but he's gonna die trying. So Arya is gonna come in and kill her, and then Sansa will be Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, maybe, or maybe Bronn will come back and try to collect his bounty and he will be king of the Seven Kingdoms. We don't know. I'm not really good at predictions with this show at all. We'll see.
As far as predictions for the finale, I kind of gave up trying to figure out what the hell was going to happen in this show a long time ago. But considering this episode, I really think we're leaning towards the Iron Throne's just no longer going to exist, and the kingdoms are going to be split up. Sansa's going to rule in the north. Gendry's going to rule in the Stormlands. Bronn apparently is going to rule in Highgarden. But I think that's really the best option. And, you know, Jon's probably going to just be a roamer. He clearly doesn't want to rule, and that's okay with me. And he just wants... he's not going to stay in Winterfell, I don't think. If he survives. I mean, fuck, he may not even survive. Who the hell knows? But the one thing that I do really want in this next episode is, you know, for Dany to, you know, yell betrayal at Jon, and for her to try to kill him, you know, using Drogon, and one of two things happens. Either Drogon refuses, which I think is less likely, or Drogon, you know, does the fire thing, but Jon survives the fire, so he is not the only dragon. That's really the only thing that I'm kind of looking for at this point. I also think that Arya is going to attempt to kill Dany. Whether she's the one that does it, I'm not sure, but she's definitely going to attempt it. And, you know, she's not fighting for vengeance anymore. She's fighting for justice, and my girls just might be getting it.
Final thoughts on this episode. We're seeing like raw emotion that is super, super powerful, and I really loved it. It was, and like not good emotions, right? So, bottom line, I loved it. Predictions for next week. I think Jon is gonna kill Daenerys, and I think Arya is going to Winterfell. I don't know. That's all I've got. I'm really worried. I don't know what it means that she's, you know, standing as the queen of like nothing on this mound of ash. But I definitely think she's gonna die. I mean, how could she not?